now.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. And again, happy Valentine's Day to you all. I would like to call this meeting to order. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. It's my privilege and pleasure to welcome you to the Cascade Speakeasy 4061 Toastmasters Club. So I'd like to start this meeting off by handing it over to our Sergeant of Arms, Rob Tibb, to lead us through the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Madam President. If everyone would please mute themselves, focus on my screen, and repeat along with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Back to you, Madam President. You are muted, Barbara.
Sorry. Arg. So thank you, Rob. Next, I have the esteemed pleasure to introduce our Toastmaster for today's meeting. Please give a big round of applause for Lloyd Smith.
Thank you, Barbara. Today's theme is Make Hay While the Sun Shines. I've been thinking about this theme. When else would you make hay? I've always wondered. I mean, it doesn't grow well in winter months and not particularly well in the fall either. So you would assume that sunshine would be the only time you can make hay. But this is one of those wise old sayings that the more you think about it, the less sense it makes, I guess. So feel free, make hay while the sun shines, if that's what makes you happy. I was thinking about the sun today when I was outside, and it was shining for a while anyway, and it shined quite a bit yesterday. And I was thinking how nice it felt to just feel the warmth from the sun after the last month or so when it pretty much hasn't been in the sky. And then here in our loop in the condo, it's melting off the snow that's by the sides of the road, our road. Our plowing contractor couldn't plow the entire road clear because there wasn't any place to push the snow after he filled up our dog area, our green space at the end of the condo with this incredible 12-foot high, 100-foot long mountain of snow. So anyway, it's beginning to melt off. That means fewer garbage cans will be collided with by some of our, shall we say, senior drivers who are a bit less capable than one might wish. On the other hand, if you walk around the loop, it keeps you alert, listening for their cars that might be coming up in back of you. Well, on with the show here. We have I was going to say a full agenda, but we don't. Anyway, I will turn the meeting over to our general evaluator, Pat Whitfield. Welcome, Pat.
Okay, I'm happy to kind of give you feedback at the end about how well we flow, how well we speak, how well we transition from one component to another. Because I downloaded the wrong agenda, is there a speaker for tonight?
No.
All right, so then I would not be introducing any speech evaluators. And I guess that means that we're going to have a heck of a long table topics kind of a thing. Who's the table topics master? Just so I know. Oh, Rob, okay. Okay, all right, thank you. Well, I'll come out of my confusion and introduce to you my very talented, dedicated team. So our timer will be Christina. We can't hear you. Your volume is down.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
All right. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. We'll try that again. Tonight, I will be timing table topics. Easy job. Table topics are 1 to 2 minutes. They give us an 2 to 3 minutes. I've been corrected. Tonight, because we have no speeches, everyone gets to wax eloquent or longer on their table topic. So we will do 2 to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, I will hold up the green. That's 2.5. The yellow. At 3 minutes, the red, at which time you will have 30 seconds to wrap up your eloquence. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Truly appreciate it. Steve is going to be the grammarian and will share with us also the word of the day.
Why, thank you so much. As grammarian, my job is to listen to everyone's speaking roles and listen for good use of the English language, as well as not so good at use of the English language, which I came close to violating right there. In addition, it's important that we have good communication skills, and by growing our vocabulary, we can do so. Tonight's word is opportunity, probably one that not many people are familiar with. An appropriate or favorable time or occasion, a situation or condition favorable for attainment of a goal. Used in a sentence, the meeting this evening provides a good opportunity to practice your speaking skills, which holds especially true given that we don't have any organized speeches. We'll get the opportunity to be more creative and to draw from our resources that we currently possess. I'll report how everything went at the end of the meeting. Thank you. I return it back to our general evaluator.
All right, thank you very much. And I'm glad you took the opportunity to define the word of the day. And then last but not least, we have our awe counter. Eric, could you inspire us about the awes?
Thank you, Ms. General Evaluator. I had the opportunity to take note of all of our filler words, words that we stumble around when we're transitioning or trying to think of what to say next, like ahs and ums and ers, or starting sentences serially with and or well. We start with but. So we have misnomers like and like, you know, repetitions, and I will keep track of all of those. The word of the night, opportunity, gives us an opportunity to have everybody say the word, and that's never happened in one of these meetings. Opportunity is a pretty easy word to say. Strive for it, but I will give my report when called upon. Thank you, Ms. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much. Then it's my pleasure to take the opportunity to turn this over again to the Toastmaster, who will introduce the Table Topics Master. Thank you.
Oh, that's me, isn't it? I knew that. I was just preparing my remarks here. I'd like to introduce our Table Topics Master, Mr. Rob Tidd.
Thank you, Lloyd. Tonight, the theme is make hay while the sun shines, which means making good use of an opportunity while it lasts. And I want to check with you, Dawn, are you willing to take on one of our table topics questions this evening?
Thank you for asking. I would like to have the opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you. This first question, and I'm not sure who I'm going to direct it to, but I'm going to preface it by telling you that the Town Toyota Center approached my Rotary Club about staffing concession stands during the hockey games because they couldn't hire employees. We don't know how long this opportunity is going to last, so we jumped on it with both feet and both hands because we knew that they needed our help and that we could make money for our Rotary Club. The question I have you ever had an opportunity present itself where you did not have much time to act, but you knew you had to act quickly? Steve, I'm going to start with you.
Why, thank you. Has there been an opportunity where I had to act quickly without the opportunity to really think it through.
Yes.
Is that essentially what we're looking at? Reminds me of a time fly fishing at Rainy Creek out by Lake Wenatchee. A beautiful scenic venue. There's nothing like being on a creek with a fly rod. It's as close as you can get to being with God here on earth, in my opinion, and a great way to burn up an afternoon. I was out casting my fly into these small pools, catching cooperative little trout, not too big, 6, 7 inches. A big one went 9 inches, and maybe there was one of those. The day progressed, 3 hours went by, and I was enjoying myself. And I had gotten quite a ways upstream, and the creek was not large, mind you. It was 1.5 times my height if I fell over sideways. Bubbling along, the beauty of this stream is that occasionally it would have these cascading waterfalls, which were attractive opportunities to just enjoy the beauty of nature. And the pool below, of course, became a nice little home for our little friends that I was pursuing. I continued on my journey upstream and decided it should be time to head back down. And as I got down there, I approached one of those little waterfall features, and I realized that it was precipitous drop. I'm going to say 12, 15 feet down. And I was thinking I could go around to the right. It was a fairly easy way to go, but if I went to the left, I could move a little more quickly. And of course, I chose that option, only to find that I lost my footing and in the fleeting second, realizing that I was about to plummet 15 feet into this shallow pool of water where I would most likely break at least one leg, if not both. I had one choice: reach out and grab a handful of Devil's Club. If you're unfamiliar with Devil's Club, it's like a vine that grows. And it is the equivalent of a porcupine in the vegetation world. It was my only choice to keep from dying. And the result, of course, was 2 handfuls of prickles, and not just kind ones. This is like nasty. That was my situation where I found there was no time to think, only to act. And the choice was going to be painful, although less so than the results of having made a poorer decision than that one. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Steve. This next question is for Eric. Our theme tonight really doesn't have anything to do with the actual making of hay, say on a farm or ranch. But if you did work on a farm or a ranch, what would you do to make the most of your time while you're working on that farm or ranch? Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master, for this golden opportunity to put my foot into my mouth. I had an opportunity one summer to work with my father. And my father was like Sanford and Son. He had a junkyard, all kinds of stuff. And it was very interesting as kids just to walk around and see all the tools. And he had some eclectic friends that were very ambitious. And if they needed a tool and they didn't have it, they just made it. They could all weld and they could hammer steel and make any kind of tool that they needed. And it was very interesting. One summer, he named this place Stepper and Sons because he wanted us 3 boys to work there, and we had wanted nothing to do with it. But we would go and work in the summer just to see what it was like and see what he was up to. He had a business with his junkyard of making wheel lines for all the irrigations there, because he worked in a freighter, so they had big fields and fields that needed to be irrigated of all kinds of different crops. He would repair these wheel lines. They would bring them in all broken up. He had a machine that would, you put the pipes in each end and they would come together, and you had to put some juice around it to kind of like a Vaseline type stuff to get those things to come together. This was a time when people were going from steel to aluminum, and it was very tricky. You had to do it just right or it would split. And it was very interesting to me because I always liked puzzles. This presented a great puzzle to try and get that together. I worked at that and I actually got pretty good. He was pretty surprised because he's had other people work with him that he said, nah, I'm just going to do it myself. But it was very interesting. And I found that although I wasn't really excited in the beginning to go and work and help him, it ended up being a very interesting job because of the way that we had to do these. And it was just a whole new thing that I was introduced to that I had never even had any consciousness of. It was enlightening. It's kind of farm-like. It's close enough to answer this question for Toastmasters. Thank you, Mr. Hobby Table Master.
Thank you, Eric. This next one is for Barbara. One of the famous lines that John Wayne said in the movie The Cowboys was, "We're burning daylight," which is fairly equivalent to our theme this evening. Barbara, have you ever been tasked with an assignment where you ran out of time? Barbara.
Thank you for that question, Rob. Every day. Done. I feel like I run out of time almost every day. Whether that's for my job, watching my kids grow, seeing my granddaughter once a year. I feel like I'm always running out of time. It goes by so fast. But for a specific project, well, I've got a funny one I can share. My husband decided that we were going to sod our backyard in one day. And it was a big backyard. So he put me to work sodding, carrying those big, heavy grass in a wheelbarrow across, and he would lay them down. We ran out of daylight. And he said, that's not a problem. And he stuck up lights everywhere so that we could work through the night. And we did. We worked through the entire night and into the early morning laying sod. And we finished it. But as we finished, my kids were getting up to go to school. So while he got to go and take a nap, I had to get my kids ready. So that's my funny story about running out of daylight, literally, and my husband creating it so I could continue to work. Thank you.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing, Barbara. One of the nice things about being the Table Topics Master is that I can ask questions pertaining to the theme of the evening or not. And I would like to stick with the theme of John Wayne. John Wayne made a number of Westerns: Stagecoach, True Grit, Rio Bravo, El Dorado, to name just a few. Dawn, I would like to know, what was your John Wayne favorite movie? And if you don't have one, who is your favorite Western actor? Dawn.
Well, thank you again for this opportunity. I am not a John Wayne fan. I tried. I was still pretty much a kid when John Wayne movies were popular, but I mean, there was only one thing that I liked about them and that I liked about all Westerns, and that was the horses, because I really do like horses. So I don't know if I can talk about a Western that I liked enough to talk about very much. So I'm going to take another opportunity, if I may. This is the third time I've broken the rules, I think. But I'm going to talk about something that those movies inspired me to do when I was a kid, again, in John Wayne times. And that was to run away from home. So I was about 9, 10 years old. And I so loved horses that every time we would go for a drive, we lived in coastal California, and we drive by these fields, always fenced, all hills, everything was fenced. And behind these fences sometimes were these beautiful horses. And I would dream about them. And in my imagination, I would jump on the back of one of them and we'd ride off across the hills, and it would just be glorious. And I also just really loved nature. I didn't like school. I just wanted to get out there. And so one day I made a plan to do that. And so what I did is I grabbed a younger friend of mine, which was not a good idea. That really slowed me down. So we got out to a park that was about 3 miles from home. And she started crying and said she wanted to go home. And so I was very disappointed, but I realized we're going to have to do this. There was no way around it. She wasn't going to make it through this plan. So I turned around, we went back out to the main road, and somehow, as soon as we got back out to the main road, there were my mom and dad driving by in a car, and they pulled up, and I'm like half disappointed, half, okay, I guess this is good, and got in the car. That was the end of that opportunity.
Thank you, Don. I just want to remind you that you haven't broken any of the rules. One of the things about table topics is you can either answer the question or talk about something entirely unrelated to the question. So you're doing everything exactly right. Pat, this next question is for you. Do you feel that you make more hay during the winter or the summer months? Pat.
I find that I really enjoy the longer days in the summer. I'm an early riser. I wake up between 5:30 and 6, start my day, do my exercises, walk my 1.5 miles, get things accomplished in the early part of the day so that I have the luxury of going over to my daughter's swimming pool in the afternoon. In the winter, the days seem so short that I feel like I have to cram everything in to the daylight hours. I don't like waking up when the sun's not shining. I don't enjoy watching TV or the nightly news and having my glass of sherry when it's dark. As a result, my answer to that question is it's in the part of the year in which the days are longer. As we creep in that direction, Well, we had December 21st, I think was whatever the date was for winter. We now get 2 minutes a day, and I value those 2 minutes very, very much. Then when we hit the end of daylight savings time, we lose 2 minutes a day. Therefore, in order to make hay while the sun shines, I can make a whole haystack in a summer day. I'm lucky if I can do a bucket, and certainly not a bushel or a peck of hay when it's dark and dreary. That's what I have to say about that.
Thank you, Pat. I've never heard of a peck of hay before, but perhaps that is an adjective that describes a bale of hay as well. I do not know.
It's called artistic license.
Christina, when you make hay, is it early in the morning? Is it late at night? Or is it 24/7?
Let me think about the last time I made hay. That would be never. However, I always enjoyed as a child the book Rumpelstiltskin. Remember the book where the princess got abducted by the scrawny little icky man and made to sit in a tower and spin straw into gold? She had to sit there and spin, and she'd prick her finger on the thing. And the deal was she had to guess the name of the man who was holding her captive. It took her a long time. She finally managed to hear his name, I believe is how it goes. I haven't read the story for quite some time because my children are now in their upper 30s and mid 40s. It has been decades since I've read this story. But it seems to me she overheard him talking to someone else, and she managed to get that person to ask his name. Toward the end of the story, he comes in with more straw that she needs to turn into gold. And he says, if you can guess my name, then you are free. She finally got up the courage. And she said, Rumpelstiltskin. He was so angry. How did you know my name? How did you know my name? He was jumping up and down on his stubby little legs and waving his arms in the air. She was so excited because, of course, you know, as in all good fairy tales, there's a Prince Charming who's kind of stomping around outside waiting for the princess to be released so that they can get on with their Valentine's Day celebration. It was wonderful. Rumpelstiltskin got stuck up there with all his stuffy straw, and the princess got to go find her prince and live happily ever after.
Thank you, Christina. I'm not sure if you're going by the name Christima or Christina, but I'll assume that maybe it's a pet name. I don't know. In any event, the final question I have is for Lloyd. Lloyd, is procrastination part of human nature, or is it a learned behavior, or both?
That's an important question, Rob, but I'm going to reject it because I prefer the question that Don got, which, by the way, Don, is another sort of rule on table topics. If you like somebody else's question, just steal it. John Wayne movies. John Wayne, of course, was a classic tough guy phony. he spent the entirety of World War II strutting around Hollywood wearing an army uniform, making crappy movies about what a tough guy he was, while other Hollywood stars like Clark Gable spent the war flying combat missions over Nazi Germany at great risk to his life. Anyway, one of John Wayne's classic movies was one of his last war movies, and that was The Green Beret, set in the Vietnam War. And near the end of that film, the plot's just junk. But during the film, one of John Wayne's buddy Green Berets befriends this little orphan kid, this Vietnamese orphan kid, and becomes kind of a de facto stepfather for the kid. And then the evil commies kill this guy. And so John Wayne is sitting on the beach with this little kid. The sun is going down, and he's telling this little kid about, it's the evil, rotten, godless commies who did it, not the great Americans who did it. And it wasn't until I had seen that, or maybe a month or so after I saw that movie, that I realized that Vietnam is on the South China Sea. So there is no seacoast that faces the west. There's a seacoast that faces the east. But I guess if you're a tough guy like John Wayne, the sun goes down wherever the hell you want it to go down. And so he was sitting on the beach, watching the sun slowly sink in the east, telling this little Vietnamese kid about how rotten the commies were in Vietnam. Anyway, I don't have any regard for John Wayne. Classic, phony, tough guy. Back to you, Rob.
Thank you, Lloyd. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this theme this evening. Obviously, it had a different meaning than the actual word, what hay is. And I have to share with you just a little bit. I worked on a farm when I was a kid, bundling hay. It was not a lot of fun. At that age, I was able to tolerate the chaff and everything flying through the air. I also worked in the wheat harvest up in Waterville. It never bothered me. I can't be around any of that anymore. I think as people get older, they acquire allergies or the resistance gets lower. I can't be around any of that. And frankly, I have to pop an allergy pill every day, 365 days a year, because I know that if I miss a day, I'm going to be in trouble. My eyes swell up, my nose is running, I'm miserable. And if I'm miserable, I make everyone around me miserable. It's not a lot of fun. Well, I just want to say thank you tonight. I don't have any other questions. I hope you had fun with the table topics tonight. And I am now going to turn it back over to our Toastmaster, Lloyd Smith.
Thank you, Rob. And I, in turn, will turn the meeting over to our general evaluator, Pat, who will ask for the reports from her evaluation team. Over to you, Pat.
They say that brevity is the soul of wit. And since it's barely 6 o'clock, that's something that characterizes our meeting tonight. Brevity is the soul of wit. First of all, let's look at the questions. They were interesting, in fact, in much greater depth than the phrase making hay while the sun shines. Really, all of the questions were thought-provoking. We had to think about it and dig in for it. I always, when I am the general evaluator, when people do interesting twists of phrases, I don't want to upstage the grammarian, but a couple of activities and twists of language were intriguing to me. Eric talked about having a golden opportunity to put my foot in my mouth. Now talk about something, golden opportunity to put my foot in my mouth. Loved it. That was really, gave me the giggles. Christina talked about Rumpelstiltskin, but her speech was characterized by lots of energy and passion, facial expression and gestures that added a lot of spice and energy to her particular presentation. Steve had some great language. He talked about a precipitous drop. Precipitous is such a mouthful Try to say that 3 times fast, precipitous, 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 whatever. And he did it with a great deal of elegance. And then visually to try to envision him about to plummet. That word plummet, not drop, plummet implies speed. So thus far, as I said at the beginning, brevity is the soul of wit. The questions caused us to use our wit to come up with some intelligent, interesting, intriguing, humorous, or whatever kind of answers. Therefore, that's all the feedback thus far. I'd say it was a fine meeting, although it was brief thus far. Okay, I'll turn it back over to the timer's report. Okay, and our timer tonight was Christina.
Thank you for the opportunity to share my results. Madam General Evaluator. Eric, 2 minutes, 49 seconds. Lloyd, 1 minute, 49 seconds. Dawn, 3:17. Great job. Steve, also 3:17. Pat, 1 minute, 45 seconds. Barbara, 1 minute, 38 seconds. Mine was 2 minutes, 44 seconds. Well done, everyone.
You were muted, Barb, or
Pat.
Pat.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said now we'll hear from our grammarian, Steve.
Well, apparently I've got nothing left to say. Just kidding. Was that my out loud voice? Pat, I'm glad that your sharp ear caught more than mine did. I actually was thinking of Eric's table topics, and I appreciated a couple of his paintings of the picture, if you will. His reference to Sanford and Son, which really brings a illumination to the picture of what that circumstance might look like. You know, things are piled high. And also eclectic friends. I love that word, eclectic. It certainly describes the variety of characters that you can find in farm country. It kind of makes me think back to the days when I was in college. I worked in a secondhand store hardware shop. If we didn't have it, you could usually walk around with the old farmers in this farming community and figure out how to make it. Farmers are great people. I'm a little concerned about the discriminatory representations that were made on Lloyd's behalf, referring to commies. I'm hoping that this doesn't get too far and wide in the community, because next thing you know, our club's going to get sued for that kind of behavior. The word of the day was used twice by Dawn. Way to go. And Christina used it once. I didn't use it because I didn't think about it, as I think we often don't. But it was a good meeting. It flowed well, and everyone's conversational skills in this club are good. And that is the extent of my report. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve. Now we'll hear from our awe counter, Eric.
Thank you, Ms. General Evaluator. Rob, you had a big speaking part and you didn't have any ums or ers. Very good. You started a couple of sentences with and well, but that was exemplary. Christina was clean. Vicky was clean. I started a couple of sentences with and. Lloyd, you had one one 4 ands, a so and a you know. Pat, you did real well until right at the end. Then you had an and a well and a so. Steve had 2 uhs, 2 ands, very good. Don, you had a lot going on there. What I would do is when Rob sends that out, or when Lloyd sends out an email, he sends out a link to the video. Watch that, really. It's very instructive and very helpful. Barbara, you had one and, one well, two so's, and one you know. That is my report, Miss General Evaluator.
Thank you. And I was precipitous in that I gave my report at the beginning, then had the rest of the team give theirs. So it is time for me to turn the meeting back over to our president, Barbara.
Thank you, Pat, so much, and your team. I would like to ask if there are any announcements this evening. Rob,
I would just like to encourage everyone to consider giving a speech, because table topics is a great part of our meetings, but it's not the only part of our meetings. And speakers can't really refine their speaking tools unless they practice speeches. So I encourage everyone to do that. However, if you have a topic that you would like to have included as table topics, such as one last week that Lloyd asked for, Back to the Future, please let me know. I'm running out of topics. That's all I have, Madam President.
thank you so much, Rob. Anybody else have any announcements for this evening? Okay, well then I will thank everyone who participated, and to all our fellow Toastmasters and guests. This was a good meeting, and I agree that there were some good questions. Anyways, so I'm going to adjourn the meeting and see you next week, same time, same place.
Night, everybody.
You guys.
Valentine's Day.